Well, good morning. Thank you for being with us here on Facebook this morning. We'll have Dr. Bob Lutz. We'll have our daily update from the Spokane Regional Health District. And today is also day 2 of our 3-day financial well-being series. We'll be joined by Spokane County Commissioner Al French, Alicia Benson with Greater Spokane Incorporated, Lance Beck with the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce, and Tommy Bremling with the West Plains Chamber of Commerce. Now, this morning they're going to be sharing information on the region-wide business recovery work group, helping understand the resources and relief assistance available to support successful business in the re-entry phase, and also the work being done today to continue supporting businesses as we now work toward recovery. Now, of course, if you have any questions at all, be sure to share them right here on Facebook. We'll try to get to as many as possible and make sure you address them to each speaker you would like to hear from. With that, we will start with Dr. Bob Lutz.
Thank you, Patrick, and still practicing this. Good morning. First of all, I really wanted to thank all of you who were participating in last night's town hall meeting. Great questions, great conversations, really informative for all of us. I think it's just essential that we understand your concerns and how we look at both where we are right now and where we envision needing to go over the future. So again, very insightful. I really appreciate all of those questions and comments, and I think I can speak for all of my partners who are up there on the stage. Oftentimes you expect for me to give the numbers, and so I'm here with some numbers for you. 247 confirmed cases as of this morning. We continue to see cases on a daily basis. Unfortunately, that also includes 14 deaths to date. Yesterday, we lost a gentleman in his 80s. To date, we've had 42 hospitalizations. And maybe I'm starting to sound like a broken record player. My apologies. But you will continue to hear me say that it's important that we really follow through with the governor's guidelines about staying home, stay healthy. And the caveat is saving lives. I can't emphasize this enough. I think all the data are demonstrating that the social distancing is having an impact and will continue to have an impact as long as we keep to it. My concern, and that concern I think is consistent with experts and other public health officials, is that if we let up the brakes too quickly, we're going to find ourselves plunging right back to where we were before. And so again, I know it's going to be a nice week, a nice weekend, good weather. I encourage you to get out and enjoy, but irrespective, it's still social distancing. It's those intimate family gatherings and intimate family groups. And again, stay healthy, stay home, and save lives. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to the other speakers talking about the Inland Biz Strong series. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Al French. I'm a county commissioner and also the current chair of the Board of County Commissioners, and I'm here on behalf of the board representing both Commissioners Cooney and Kearns to say to all of our first responders, thank you. Thank you for putting yourselves in the line of fire. Thank you for being that front line for us, as well as our healthcare providers that are putting themselves at risk day in and day out to make sure that as a community we can stay healthy as we move through this this crisis. This is really two crises. One, it's a healthcare issue. Two, it's an economic crisis. Before we can deal with the economic issues, we have to deal with the health issues. And so with the leadership of Dr. Bob Lutz and the others in the medical community, we are making great strides. But again, this requires you to do your part. Be safe. Follow all the protocols necessary to keep you and your family members safe. The second part of this is, how do we restore the economic stability of this region? So we are working hand in hand with our partners, GSI, to not only address the mitigation needed to help our small businesses in this community survive this current challenge, but also working to stand up a new task force of business leaders across the region to work on a strategy for how do we recover? How do we get our economy standing straight up again and getting everybody back to work? So I just want to let you know that we've got good minds that are at the table, both elected and business leaders that are going to develop that strategy to say that we will get back to a strong economy. We will get through this, and we'll do it together. So I'd like to turn it over at this point then to the leader of GSI, Alicia Benson.
Well, good morning. Thank you, Commissioner French. As he said, I'm Alicia Benson, and I am the CEO of Greater Spokane Incorporated. And it is my honor to be here today. We serve as the Regional Business Development Organization for Spokane County, and one of those charges is the role as the designated Associate Development Organization or the Regional Economic Development Organization. And our work and focus is often on business expansion and recruitment and retention, and the work looks different today, but it's the right work and the most important work. We're in an unprecedented time, and although the work looks different, it's the right work and it's intense work. And we're doing this work with a huge swath of partners from across the entire region, focused on business. Every business of every size. This isn't about your chamber affiliation, your municipal boundary. It's about, it's not about the size of your organization. It's about ensuring that we support our businesses in this both recovery in the immediate as long as the long-term response. The needs of our business community are broad and great. Our local, state, and federal governments are working closely together to quickly build outlets for their support. An example, just earlier this week, the Washington State Department of Commerce released the Working Washington Small Business Emergency Grant. And to date, we've received over 6,000 applications across the state of Washington and over 800 here in Spokane County. What this underscores is the significant need and impact that our employer and business community is feeling as we respond to this very critical public health crisis that we have been right alongside and supportive of. This grant is focused on businesses of our smallest businesses, 1 to 10 employees, businesses that have been most severely impacted by this public health crisis, the government orders, etc. We'll be sharing the information in the comments so that you can understand what it is and have the opportunity to apply and be considered for this funding. What I'd underscore, though, is that this is just one of many important relief measures underway that we're encouraging businesses to explore all of them. The other thing I want to say is that in this community, Greater Spokane Incorporated, along with over 40 other organizations, these include our chamber partners that are here today, the county, our cities, Downtown Spokane Partnership, Visit Spokane, and so many others, are focused on recovery. We're leading the Business Recovery Work Group as part of this emergency response, and are really focused on Inland Biz Strong. It's about building a plan for relief, resources, assistance, and ultimately recovery. This is a strategic function of the Inland COVID-19 Response Center, and as you've heard from our earlier speakers, it's about addressing the public health need and then being able to come alongside for the recovery. These efforts are being informed by a dynamic set of work going on throughout the region as we look at how every single employer of every size is being affected. It's about bringing together the business community in numerous calls with agencies and elected leaders. It's about engaging with our policymakers to understand what relief efforts are underway and working with our partners at a local, state, and federal level, like the Association of Washington Business, the Washington Economic Development Association, the Department of Commerce, and so many others to make sure that we're coming together to support business. This allows us to put together a broad swath of work that's aimed at assisting businesses and many employers, both in the immediate response and in the long-term recovery. It takes each of us to be able to ensure that this community is strong into the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick and Alicia and Commissioner French. Again, hi, my name is Lance Beck. I'm President CEO of the Greater Spokane Valley Chamber of Commerce. It's my honor to serve the cities of Spokane Valley, Liberty Lake, and Millwood with our organization. I want to start by thanking our Valley Chamber members today. Without their support during this time, it wouldn't be possible for our organization to continue to work on their behalf. So again, thank you to all of our members. I also want to thank Alicia and Toby for their, and then as well as our Business Recovery Work Group members for their willingness to eliminate boundaries during this time. and work in a complete sense of collaboration on the recovery efforts here. It's definitely a testament to our community's leadership that we have our business sector here working in a collaborative nature to ensure that we not only survive this pandemic but recover quickly and see our region's economy continue to develop. We have several tools that I'd like to bring to your attention that our group has brought forward for you to be able to utilize during this time. First is our Joint Chambers Small Business Resource Call that happens weekly. This call is every Thursday at 11 a.m. and I believe we're adding a link to the comments section right now for you where you can register for today's call. This is open to all businesses in the region, so you do not have to be a member of any of our groups, and we feature topics that change and rotate throughout the weeks, depending on what we're hearing from feedback from our memberships. And so this week we have Lisa Brown, the Director of Washington Department of Commerce. We have an agent from the Employment Security Department, and then we have two of our local lenders, President COO of Washington Trust Bank, Jack Heath, and the President and CEO of STCU, Ezra Eckhart, joining us today. So be sure to sign up for that call. We look forward to bringing that resource to you on a weekly basis. Additionally, we are in the works on a new tool that will be a resource navigator webpage, and so we're bringing this online as quickly as possible. This will be a new standalone website that has an intelligent logic-based back end to it, and we will be culminating all resources that we have at our disposal to help businesses through this site. And so you will be able to create an account for your business by answering a few simple questions. You'll be able to have that account maintained, and as new resources become available, those resources will be able to be push notified to you. And so it's really a one-stop shop for you to be able to be linked to the resources that are applicable to your business, helping you navigate that process as we move through the changing times of where we're at in various stages of recovery. I'd also, in the meantime, like to point you towards inlandcovidresponse.org. We'll put that link in here. That site has a broad listing of all resources currently available to our Inland Northwest businesses. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Toby Bremeling with the West Plains Chamber.
Thank you, Lance. My name is Toby. I'm the Executive Director of the West Plains Chamber of Commerce. Our core purpose is to be a strategic partner in the advancement of our area, and it's been very encouraging, especially in this very tough time, the collaboration that's happened not only between our chambers, but our cities, and really all of our leadership around the region. So really, we're a strategic partner in the advancement of Spokane and our state and our entire nation. So 4 weeks ago, I can't believe it was 4 weeks ago, we came up with a survey because it's important to us to understand the needs of our business community, especially in this hard time, rather than just assume what their needs are, ask them firsthand. And so that survey went out. It was a regional impact survey, and we found great data. A lot of our businesses had to shut their doors and drastically change how they operate. And our job was to come alongside them and try to provide good resources. Today, things are different. There's a lot that's happened. And so collaboratively, we've come together to create a new survey. We're going to call it the Regional Impact Survey Part 2. And what it's going to do is really hone our questions so that we can hone the resources that we provide for our businesses. So I encourage you business owners out there, please, that survey will go out to a lot of our regional municipalities and a lot of different channels. Please take that survey so that we can hear from you. Today, it's important to ask good questions and then listen well and hone in where those resources that are going to bring the biggest relief to provide the biggest impact for those hit hardest. Next, I want to give a plug to the census. In our previous webinar that our chamber did, one of our West Plains mayors just really wanted to emphasize that this the census is an important tool to really get pivotal, critical funding, especially in this difficult time. So please, if you have a chance, I would say fill out that census. If you're home, I think they have an online version. You can go to www.spokanecensus.org and help us complete the count. Thank you.
Thank you. Our first two questions will be for Commissioner French. So, Commissioner, earlier this week, the commissioners made a request through a letter to the governor to deem residential construction, specifically an essential business. Can you give us an insight as to why the commissioners felt that this was a priority? And then also, can you let us know if you've heard any response from the governor or conversations resulting from that letter?
Yes, thank you for the question. On Monday, the Board of County Commissioners did draft and sign a letter to the governor asking him to reconsider his determination as to whether home building is an essential service or an essential industry in the state. What this has done is his determination that it is not has caused a number of our residents here who have sold their home prior to this epidemic surfacing in anticipation of moving into a new home that was under construction. It stalled the construction of the new home. So it's leaving folks that otherwise had a home and have a home that they're moving in homeless. And with a number of the hotels in the region that have closed because of a lack of business, it has created a lot of stress for folks in this community. There are mechanisms, there are protocols that the home builders as well as other contractors can use to maintain safe distancing on the construction site, to make sure that they've got safe environments for their workers. And we think that the industry should be allowed to use those protocols and get back to construction, not only because we need the employment, we need the jobs, but we need the homes to make sure that folks that otherwise thought they were going to be moving into a new home find themselves homeless. So this is something the board has embraced. We are working in partnership with counties across the state that have residents in the same situation. So it's a statewide initiative to try and persuade the governor to reconsider his determination. To date, we have not heard anything yet, but we are anxious, as well as a lot of homeowners that are challenged with where they're going to live. Thank you.
And while you're up there, Commissioner French, and this could be a question that all of our speakers could address, as you look towards the months ahead of us and coming out of this public health crisis, how do you feel businesses will be repositioned to come out of this crisis? What is the glimmer of hope that you're looking for our businesses to rebound?
So as I indicated in my earlier comments, this is a crisis of two natures. One, health, and then the second is economic. And as the leadership for GSI and the Valley and West Plains Chambers has indicated, they are working tirelessly to make sure that our businesses, especially our small businesses, can stay alive, stay vibrant, maintain a business level to whatever is possible given the protocols required to try and get through this health issue. Ultimately, we're going to come out of this, and there is hope. And so we are working in partnership with GSI to stand up a new task force of business leaders and community leaders to chart what is that strategy for coming out of this. What are the mechanisms that we need? What are the resources available to us to be able to get our economy standing up straight again? We will get through this. And I'm very grateful for the leadership in the community, especially the business community, that has said we'll be partners and we will work to create that strategy to get us standing up straight again.
This next question is for Alicia. We had a question about the Regional Business Impact Survey, a little bit more information about that, and what information you believe you're going to get from that will be able to help.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a survey that's going to have about 15 questions on it, and it digs a bit deeper. We continue to hear from businesses around how they're tackling challenges with their employees, questions around that they've either had to lay them off, furlough them, shared work program, which I know you talked about much of that at your Facebook Live yesterday. So it's actually gathering some data around that, so we actually have a better feel for how are our employers and companies handling that. The other big piece is around the relief that's out there. There's been a huge response for immediate business relief, whether you look at the Small Business Administration disaster loan, the emergency loan that's out from SBA. We now have the Department of Commerce grant, making sure that we understand both what are our employers and businesses applying for, are they having success at achieving that, and then there's a lot of interest across the region for our cities and counties and our county to understand how kind of where are the gaps, and I think that's the other big piece that you'll see in the survey, because we know that this is it's a complicated response and recovery, and we have a lot of entities and organizations and potential funding streams that can help, but we have to be able to assess those gaps, and so it'll be asking additional questions around that so that we can really make sure that we understand what the current reality is for our businesses, as well as what their greatest concerns are as we move really just to the question you just had, from immediate response to longer term recovery.
Question from a viewer here wanting to know just a little bit more information on a topic you touched on actually a couple earlier, the Business Recovery Work Group, a little bit more information about that, and then also the Commerce Grant.
Absolutely. So the Business Recovery Work Group is actually a standing function underneath the overall countywide incident command response, and so GSI as the regional business development organization is paired to lead that. We're facilitating that effort. We have about 40, maybe even pushing 45 different organizations, associations, cities, et cetera, engaged. And we're focusing on 3 primary areas initially, which has been making sure that we understand what all of the different relief measures are of our cities, for example, as well as obviously from SBA and others, looking at what assistance is out there. So it's one thing to be able to have the access to the relief measures, but another for how do you need help with filling out paperwork. And so there's some efforts going on, not live yet, to stand out some navigators that'll be actually people that people can call to be able to assist with that application. And then the third big function's been around resources. There's a huge amount of resource activity across the region. How do we ensure that businesses are getting connected to it, as well as individuals, whether that supports through unemployment and the Unemployment Security Division locally here with our Workforce Center, or whether it's ensuring that we're connecting folks to, for example, to the Community Response Fund that the Inovia Foundation, the United Way of Spokane County, and others have stood, and Empire Health Foundation have stood up. So it's really, at this point, how do we make sure that we actually bring it all together and then create easy access for businesses to it? And Lance mentioned the tool that we're adding to help filter, and that'll be built into some of the information we've been gaining so that we can get businesses to the information that's of highest and most important use to them. On your second question, the Department of Commerce grant, that's the Working Washington Small Business Emergency Grant, everything is out. I think we've actually included the link on the feed today, but everything is out also off of the coronavirus.wa.gov site. And it gives you pretty simple instructions. There's a 2-page application you need to complete. What I would stress for businesses is the more you can complete every single box on that application, it'll help strengthen your application. It helps us to be able to sort through and understand need and impact. And the other thing I would just underscore is that the need is much more significant than the dollars that are currently allocated at a state level for this. We have $5 million, and again, over 6,000 responses statewide. If we look at the grant, it's up to $10,000. So if you do the easy math, we have about 500 grants to award across the state of Washington. But what I'd also add is keep filling out the application because there is continued conversations about how to add additional resources, and we want to make sure that we have a good gather of the impact across the region and across the state so that we can continue to look at additional response and supports that are needed.
And the next question will be for Toby and Lance. We have a question about if you have a final message or a message for employers in your communities today.
Yeah, I think this is a question that we get quite a bit. I mean, I talk to small business owners all the time where I think they kind of huddle down in their basements like many of us working from home. And I think the most important message is you're not alone in this. I think Commissioner French said it well, that I think we're going to push through together and collaboratively get through it. And so the biggest thing is just as our chambers and our regional partners are coming together, we're here to come alongside you. I'm encouraged by our state and some of the relief efforts that are there, but I would say for those small business owners that make sure you continue to reach out, stay healthy, stay safe, stay home, and we'll come alongside you.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I think one of the things that I encourage every small business owner that we talk with is no question's too small. So part of why we created that joint chamber call every week is for the ability to field questions. And it not only helps drive what we're going to present to the business community on a weekly basis, but it also gives us the opportunity to connect with you. No question goes unanswered whether or not we can get it done during that call. We do filter those questions and get them through to the correct agencies to get you the answers you need. So Toby mentioned we're in our basements. I think we've seen every room in Alicia's house over the last week. And we're just working tirelessly on your behalf to ensure that your questions don't go unanswered. And so in this time, we're here to be a resource for you. We've removed that membership tag here. So really any business in the community can access our services. We're here to help get you through that. So don't hesitate to reach out when you have questions.
All right, our next question will be for Dr. Lutz. We have a couple of questions from one of our viewers right now. There have been reports that federal funding for testing sites could be gone by Friday. They want to know if this could possibly affect Spokane. The second question they have, are there any hotspots right now that you have identified or have been identified here in Eastern Washington?
Okay, yeah, so two questions. The first question around federal funding for testing. We have not heard of any of that concern. Funding for testing in and of itself has not been a major issue. For us, has been the actual getting the materials that we need for testing. So I guess to answer that question, I'm not familiar with any funding limitations coming from the federal government, but I will say, to the credit of everyone, both at the local and state level, we are seeing more testing become available, and so for me that's very heartening and very encouraging. With respect to the second question about hotspots, we just did some mapping of the Spokane region over the last few days, and I won't necessarily say I see hotspots. What I do see, however, which is not surprising, is that in the larger population centers, such as Spokane Valley and the city of Spokane, that's where I'm seeing the most number of cases. But there aren't really hotspots that we've identified as of yet. We are, however, looking at that information because if we do see something along those lines, that would allow us to be maybe more targeted in educational activities, and again, sort of working with the community to understand why that hotspot would exist.
And our final question this morning, a lot of people wanting to know when some of these restrictions will be lifted, if there's any timetable at all, and then also what it would look like potentially when these restrictions begin to be lifted.
Yeah, great question again about when are the restrictions that have been very, very challenging for all of us to deal with. When do we see them lifting? We know right now that the current stay home, stay healthy guidance goes through May 4th. This morning I was listening on the news to one of the researchers who's been doing some of the modeling that has been referred to by both the president as well as the governor, and he was encouraged by the fact that we are seeing, again, improvements in many states and even at local levels. The caveat that he said, however, was that if we continue to lighten up, which again is the concern, that we will be right back where we are right now. So his comments were to the effect that we could probably continue to see some form of these social distancing requirements through the end of May. And again, I think that is a prudent way to be looking at things. The concern is that if we let our hands off the brakes too quickly, we will find ourselves descending down this hill really quickly again. And I don't think any of us want to be there. So again, I think a gradual lightening up of the restrictions, as has been discussed earlier, there may be some targeted industries that are loosened up first. But again, I think it's essential that the stay home, stay healthy message is one that we will be looking at for many weeks, if not maybe the next few months to come.
And finally, this morning with the weather turning, it's awful nice out there. There's a lot of people wanting to get out of the house, get out and about. What would your message be to them finally this morning?
Yeah, Patrick, again, I just can't echo enough. I think I'm starting to sound like a broken record player, and I apologize for that, but we are seeing the impacts of the social distancing, the stay home, stay healthy, save lives message. And the weather is inviting. We have a lot of pent-up frustrations. And again, I don't want to be here. I don't want you to be seeing me every day for the next couple of months. I think we all want to return to our lives. But again, I think that patience is what we are recommending. So get out when you can, get out where you can. Again, stay healthy, stay at home. If you're out, use all those social distancing recommendations that are still in effect, and stay healthy. So, yeah. So again, I thank you for tuning in today. Tomorrow we'll be back for the third part of our biz piece, and have a good day. Stay healthy. That's easy. I can do this.